Welcome to B2B Marketing Futures, the show where we explore what's next in modern marketing. I'm your host, Joaquin Dominguez, and today we are diving into a topic that never goes out of style, but rarely gets done right: sales and marketing alignment. Whether you're launching a new campaign or navigating a complex enterprise sale, alignment across go-to-market functions is a make or break. Joining us today are four incredible guests, each bring a unique lens on this challenge, from product marketing and GTM strategy to growth and investor insight. And before we jump in, I love for each of you to introduce yourselves, briefly share about your current role and focus. So, Sonia, would you like to start? Welcome.
Great to be here. So I'm Sonia. I've been in marketing for over 15 years. Most recently, I've been investing in fintech and health tech early stage companies. But I've been a part of the 0 to 1, the scale up to enterprise, and I have pretty much done everything across the moon when it comes to marketing. So great to be here.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Welcome. Mary.
Hey everyone. I'm super excited to be here today. My name is Mary and I'm a demand generation leader with the experience over a decade. I am passionate about B2B marketing, and sales and alignment is one of my most favorite topics. So I would love to learn from my perks and for sure to share some thoughts.
Thank you so much. Peter.
Hi, everybody. I'm a customer first marketing exec. I came up through the ranks of product marketing and I've turned towards product consulting at this point. I'm very passionate about product marketing and go-to-market strategy. I've been a B2B marketing professional for over 2 decades. And today I help companies to up their product marketing game and develop those types of collaborative environments where sales, marketing, customer success, and products can align around common goals.
Thank you so much, Peter. And Jeff.
Hey everyone, my name is Jeff Boggess. I currently work at Checkr, leading the product marketing efforts for our criminal and motor vehicle background checks. I'm a storyteller at heart. I love to collaborate, passionate about aligning teams, and really excited to join the conversation today.
Thank you so much, Jeff, and thank you all for those great introductions. Let's begin by identifying the pain points. Where does sales and marketing alignment typically break down? Is it in the handover, being disconnects, or competing incentives? I love to hear your stories where things went wrong and what that taught you.
I'll shoot one out there. I'd love to hear what everyone else has to say. I mean, there's a lot of obvious low-hanging fruit, but I think one that I see more often than not is ego. I think when you look at disconnects at the end of the day, it's an ego problem. When things are going bad, people start to point fingers. And when things are going well, they don't like to share credit. That attitude inside of organizations is the crack that creates the disconnect between sales and marketing very often.
Yeah, I love that take, Peter. I think ego is a big one. I try to check my ego at the door every day I show up. Another one, I think a problem is the handover and the handoff. I think amongst teams here at Checkr and even previous companies, I think it's when the sales disagrees on the messaging. And in the past, from earlier years in product marketing experience, coming to sales after everything has been built was not the right point. I think it's including them earlier on in the conversation so we can really align with what we're hearing from the market and what they're hearing from their customers. So for us, it's always making sure that there's clear handover and handoff at the right checkpoints.
I totally agree with the ego and all of these thoughts. And when I was building this alignment from the beginning, I was trying to become a friend with sales, not pointed the fingers. And I think this major silent and misalignment starts from the beginning when sales and marketing are not brought to the table together to discuss the strategy, the planning, to have the same KPI and to have the same understanding what is really the good leads, right? Because usually marketers are focused on the lead volume while sales are focused on revenue and close rates. So they totally have a different parallel goals, but not shared, right? So I think when starting the meeting was the question how each of us can bring impact, contribute, it's going to build a very friendly environment because once marketers don't know what happened on sales calls. And when salespeople don't know actually what messages go out, it actually brings to the full frustration because no one knows what's happened. So the communication from the start point, from the strategy and planning, this is the first step to this alignment.
Yeah, and just to build off of that, I certainly am aligned to those feedback loops with sales. I think that that's really important in any marketing function that you're in. But even beyond that, in my experience, when I experience hyper growth, sales and marketing, we need to scale together. There needs to be constant communication. So your systems need to communicate, your metrics need to align as well, so that marketing is full funnel, really driving towards revenue, just as sales is. And being customer obsessed and being able to take all the data, use all the feedback loops, and being that voice of the customer and the voice of the market. So that translates to selling to customers ultimately and the bottom line.
Yeah, I would pick up on something that Mary mentioned. I think KPIs and the early planning is always a challenge. I think one of the big mistakes companies make is they sign a KPI to a group. And the reality is, if you want to do any type of collaborative go-to-market planning, you have to say what's the motion and who's leading, because not every motion is lead generation by marketing. Sometimes we're in the support role where we're trying to push the leads forward. We're trying to unstick deals. And that's a very different KPI. And when you give marketers a blanket KPI, just like every sales rep has a blanket KPI, they need to make their quota. You incent behavior that naturally drives these two teams in different directions. So I think that one is critical. Figure out what your motions are and then agree on who's doing what for each motion. So it's not one KPI, it's multiple KPIs based on what you're actually trying to achieve.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Peter. And what also remind me is that once we started to ask the sales about advice, because they know the client so good, they talk to them on a daily basis. So once we became open to their feedback on what campaigns should we launch, what works better, and what should we consider, it actually changed the environment so considerably, because the sales team started feeling that they are supported. We don't ask them, well, guys, why is the conversion rate so bad? We come and ask about, their minus values. So we consider their feedback. We support them. We are here to help, but not to judge, right?
And Mary, is that when you talk to sales, how often or when you talk to sales, is that a process that is documented? Maybe Peter, in your words, is that a motion? Who's leading that motion? Curious to learn about that.
I would say that the early beginning is to start with the C-level executive buy-in, to have the champion or the champions from both of the team who will be fostering and contributing into this alignment. So the teams needs to have the support on the very top level. Regarding the communication, as I said, sales team became my best friends. So I totally have the conversation with them on a daily basis. I would say that I would divide this check-ins into 3 groups. So the first one is strategic sessions, and we meet with the leaders on a monthly basis. We discuss the strategy, we discuss the expectations to the pipe and how we actually can succeed. The second one is post-project debriefs, which means that we have to meet after the projects like ABM campaigns or third-party events to gather the feedbacks from both of the teams and understand what should we change and what is really important, what should we keep, what works good, what is the key of success. And the third one is tactical syncs. It's a very short and sharp calls. We don't discuss the strategy at all. It's just the healthy check-ins to understand the traction and the troubleshoot blockers, just to make sure that we keep on a track and we're going to achieve the quota until the week or months or quarter, whatever. But yeah, 3 types of communications, but it's a constant and regular check-ins for sure.
Yeah, we do something similar at Checkr. We host weekly feedback loops. We call these field pulse. And so every Monday, we get a 30-minute sync between us and product marketing and our top performing reps. And it's strictly a no slide meeting. It's just like real talk, similar to what Mary captures. What are they hearing? What type of content are we missing? It's really just fast and raw, and it's really invaluable to how we're getting those insights piped back into our messaging and our campaigns. And honestly, I think it's one of the best meetings we have where ideas come from. Another cool one, we're a Slack org here. So we do a lot of messaging. We have a channel called Killer Quotes. And so this is where everyone who's involved in a customer facing call can just like the only thing you can put in there is a quote from a customer. And so whether that's a quote leading to something that's great about our product or that needs improvement, we just have these quotes that are dropped in there. So it's quote and customer from that. So that's also really helpful. I then utilize AI. I feel like you can't get anywhere without talking about this topic, but we'll do a data dump of like last month's quotes and then try to accumulate themes that come out of those quotes and then organize them to really shape some customer pain points or success of products that are on a roadmap that are doing really well.
I understand the documentation of the quotes with Slack, but how do you document what you get from those meetings where there are no slides, it's just conversational? How do you store that knowledge that, as you mentioned, is so
Yeah.
valuable? You don't want to miss it, right?
Yeah, the AI again is a huge proponent here. So we use Zoom and we use Zoom meeting recap. So that captures full transcript of the call as well as like a summary of that meeting. I like using the full transcript, so I'll take that transcript, throw it into generative AI and ask it with a really strict prompt of takeaway, actionable items. What came out of this meeting? And then when you have enough of those, you can run a similar prompt and talk about theme messaging, what themes from across the last several weeks have come up, and really start to organize all of the stuff that comes out of those insights. But yeah, we definitely want to keep conversation very authentic in those meetings and not have it feel like this formal session, and really great actions come out of it. But AI for the win there as well, Joaquin.
Yeah, recording meetings is such a powerful tool, right? And one of the advantages of working remotely.
To build off of that, using AI, those themes, working with sales. So one thing, what I've approached, leading product marketing. So I would work directly with our C-suite on a very regular basis, and we set up operational meetings and check-ins because we had very specific pipeline goals. But because I owned ABM as well, partner marketing, we had targets, right? But driving enterprise customers, getting those insights along the way, that requires a really tight partnership. And so leading our operational meetings would lead us to our QBRs. And so there were no real surprises there. We had a really strong sync with our cross-functional stakeholders. And, you were essentially able to call out any roadblocks, any flags along the way. And that's been really effective for me in my experience.
Sonia, on that point, marketing ops and sales ops alignment. I think this is one of those, again, one of these hidden things that if you don't do it, you're doomed from the beginning because you want everyone to agree on what truth is. And the best way to do that is to make sure those two teams are walking in a straight line, completely connected. And everything you just said, right, when that is built on a foundation of one operational view of what data is, where that data lives, and who's looking at that data, it's just a recipe for success. And when you don't do it, you're building on faulty ground, right? You're right back to finger pointing and you got the wrong data, or I don't believe your data. And it's just such a powerful thing to get correct right up front.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sonia, I would like to come back to something that you mentioned at the beginning about revenue and how all the companies should be aligned on a full funnel and also focus on revenue. I would love to know what's your view on, because if marketing gets super focused on revenue, you could lose track of what's marketing about, which is creating a brand, is creating top of the funnel content, is building that pipeline that at the end of the day will be revenue. Is have you experienced, and this is an open question of course to everyone, when companies or when you try to align on revenue, sometimes you get too much focus at the bottom of the funnel and you lose a little bit the strategy at the top?
Yeah. So in my experience, when I joined Segment when we were about Series D, and this was right right before Twilio acquired Segment, initially we were gold on growth. So bringing in new pipelines specifically. Now, as the company continued to scale and grow, and hitting a specific level of maturity as well, we really needed to focus on expansion and retention as well, ultimately. And so building out, whether it's top of funnel around thought leadership or mid funnel, maybe a mix of demos, technical content, very specific approaches, campaigns that may map to your roadmap. And then, for me at Segment, we work very closely with professional services, working with solutions and focusing on expansion. And ABM would also take things across the line, full funnel. And so as a marketing team, product marketing, we worked very closely with pretty much every function from ABM, partner marketing, customer marketing, content marketing, our integrated marketing team, demand gen. And so I think for me, the key takeaway there is within product marketing, you're really owning that entire go-to-market strategy today, now more so than ever with AI. You need to be able to be adaptable to how you take products to market.
I love that breakdown because it's something that we are constantly balancing here at Checkr is top of funnel, bottom of funnel, especially as an organization really focused on enterprise right now. And I think one of the things I always like to say going into these meetings is like, hey, if we only focus on watering the bottom of this tree, like don't be surprised when that tree dries out, And so I work with our leadership to try to keep the diversification across those segments. And I think PMM plays as that thread. It is about that lower funnel stuff, but we've learned like the best converting accounts usually had 3 to 5 marketing touch points before they even talk to a rep. So these are like those blog posts, webinars, customer stories, and work very closely with customer marketing to elevate that and let that be a part of the campaigns, which is the campaign team who are hyper focused on those assets. So I feel like product marketing is the glue, this center nucleus between all of these moving parts to keep a nice balance in the org. So totally resonate with the strategy that you just broke down there. I'm playing it out in real life right now.
Yeah, and I do think it depends what segment of the market you're targeting as well, right?
Sure.
With enterprise and how your team is structured. Hopefully as an entire marketing organization, you are thinking about the full funnel. But I think now more than ever, every marketer probably has to think about the full funnel, the entire go to market, and owning that.
So, one thing we didn't talk about, and I'd love to get the hot take from everybody else on this one, as a major driver of disconnect between sales and marketing is product teams. And the reason I say that is product marketing sets the strategy for marketing, at least in most organizations, and product marketing teams with the product groups. Like that is one of our number one customers. And when they are disconnected from sales or they are in a disagreement with sales, right? Product marketing is on the front line with the product teams. First and foremost, right? It's our job to know those products and understand the ICP. And when that team is disconnected from the sales team and we're stuck in the middle and we're trying to build programs that meet the requirements of the product teams and help us to actually get to whatever our goals are with sales, that tends to be that fracture moment. And having, run an entire organization here, I've been able to see different sales teams where they're like this with product, and other teams where I talk to them sales and I talk to the product teams. It's like they're on 2 different planets. And you've got a product marketer stuck in between them trying to drive alignment, which sometimes is an impossible task. But we're the ones who suffer at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm very keen to hear more about the role of product marketing in unifying the go-to-market engine. What does good cross-functional integration actually look like?
I'll steal from everybody else. It's already been said, but I think Mary started with upfront joint go-to-market planning, right? So that we can create ownership amongst all the groups that are involved, however many groups that may be, depending on your structure. And then getting on to what Sonia said about, the stand-ups and, the QBRs, the weekly stand-ups, the bi-weekly stand-ups, the monthly stand-ups. And, I will say the higher up you go in an organization, the less detail you get. You have very different types of stand-ups where you're focused on very smaller different KPIs, you start, and then the lower you get, the deeper that detail gets, and the more often you need to have those meetings, making sure that it's all the people involved and you focus on problem solving, as opposed to finger pointing. You focus on accountability versus assigning blame. I think that's it. But I think, again, Mary and Sonia talked about this very eloquently in the last section about, these are things that product marketing needs to be the drivers of.
Yeah, and building off of that, I certainly think it's a few things. It's being outcome driven, and really understanding. So, what are your cross functional stakeholders? What are their priorities? Because it is a bit of a prioritization. What is a specific goal that everyone is working towards and driving? Are you aligned there? Having empathy when you are working with your cross functional stakeholders and being a key communicator for sure, but how do you translate what may be quite technical? How do you translate, the voice of the customer and some of the pain points, what sales is seeing out when they're trying to sell versus maybe what product perhaps wants to take to market? Whereas, where is the market actually at today and where are we trying to head? And so I think it is certainly an art, right? Using data, using qualitative relation, like how you work with individuals, and being able to prioritize accordingly as well, ultimately drive that outcome and business value.
Yeah, and
It just bring me to the thought that there are actually different level of the alignment between marketing and sales. Because so if we're talking about the growth marketers, the revenue team, it's going to be a very outcome based team. So the alignment could be, the check-ins could be as strategic as well as tactical things like fast. So their goals are numbers, and it's a very accurate information. If you're talking about another part of the marketing like brand or product marketing, it's going to be a completely different alignment, to be honest. I just realized, because it's going to be a long-term perspective. So the sales will be sharing more about existing customers, their tone of voice, their real experience of working with the product, right? So I think both of these alignments are must, but I just realized that they are different, because the brand, the revenue, the product, it's all the different parts of the universe actually. And we need to approach this type to alignment differently. But the core of all of this is low ego and the desire to bring the impact, to help each other.
yeah, and there any other insights on how do you prioritize messaging? Jeff, you mentioned the idea of, for example, analyzing Slack and building themes from conversations. Peter, you talk about the stand-ups, right? And stand-ups that happen at different levels. But then you still need to do some prioritization and translate that into messaging or translate that into products. So how do you prioritize that work across functions?
Yeah, I think this is really where product marketers earn their seat at the org. Look, messaging can be really chaotic fast, especially when every team wants their feature, their audience, or an insight to the lead that they have. So I love the power of three. So personally, I use a 3-bucket framework here to prioritize and focus. I think it just really keeps us strategic and not reactive when everybody's coming at you with all of the requests. And so the first bucket to which I prioritize is revenue drivers. And I lead with this one. It's I think these are the messages that are directly tied to closing pipeline and unblocking any kind of deals that are out there. So like when we launched a recent update to a continuous criminal check product, and sales needed a clear narrative to counter, why not just run a background check one time? This became a priority message for us because it had a direct tie to active deals in the pipeline. The second bucket that we use here is just strategic positioning. So this is building long-term value, and these messages like really reinforce our market position or educate the buyer for long-term trust. This shows like Checkr's infrastructure on compliance and scale. This type of messaging probably won't convert this quarter, but it's really planting seeds to pay off in the future. And then the last bucket is like table stakes. This is nice to have. It can support, but it doesn't really lead. I don't really lead with this one. The bucket is for features or updates that are helpful, but they're really not differentiating. So like we integrate with this partner, or we have this new capability within an already existing product. I think these can support like our core story here, but they don't drive it. So it's very hard to say no. So I rather say no. I just talk about from a prioritization level of the timeline and expectation when I can get to messaging or prioritizing the messaging request. So yeah, it's not about saying yes to everything, but it's also not about saying no as well.
And just to build off of that, so some of the when we've done messaging, especially at Segment, being in a really crowded, landscape in general, the MarTech landscape, and then the CDP market specifically, because it was so crowded, we used a very much pain points type of an approach. We took a look at our competition, right? What was our differentiation? Making sure that our platform narrative, we were aligned cross-functionally on what that message was around our platform. And then for us, because we got acquired by Twilio, where does Segment's CDP, our platform, map into Twilio's platform? And then from there, any products we had on the product roadmap, we would have very specific messaging aligned. But it was certainly an iterative, messaging is always iterative type of a process.
I would also add that I think a lot of customers and a lot of my customers, the reason they come to someone like me is they fall short in messaging because they make mistakes early on, right? And I think the challenge is it starts with the ICP. Too many people, especially younger companies, skip past it. They think their ICP is who's bought their product, as opposed to being deliberate about who is the best potential customer. But it needs to be clearly documented. I think this is some place where a lot of product marketers skate. They give a PowerPoint or something, and you have to remember that your messaging, no matter how good it is in your head, is going to be used by someone downstream who lacks your technical expertise on messaging and the product. And so clearly documenting that in a way that anybody in your organization can pick it up, or channel partners can pick it up and actually deliver the message correctly to the market is critical. And that message needs to be informed by VOC. We talked about that, right? There's all sorts of touch points you can do, but also the competitive landscape. Somewhat to what Sonia was saying, if you're in a crowded market, you're not in a crowded market, you better understand what your competitors are saying. Because if you sound like them, then you're not differentiating yourself. And so you need to incorporate that into what you're doing. And then, of course, SEO. It's a strange thing to bring up now, but it's critical as product marketers. If you're not giving your digital marketers that first step down the SEO path, I wish you good luck. They'll do the hard work, but you need to set them on the path. So that I think it was Jeff that said this earlier, how many touch points are happening before anyone even gets involved? Well, they're finding you. And if you want to be found, you better make sure that you're getting found either through paid or for organic. And that starts with the SEO. So if you're not setting up your digital marketing teams for success in that respect, again, that's where your messaging is going to fail you.
I have a follow-up question there for you because I think it's super important. And I think what's really cool about your background is you work with a lot of different companies. What are some of the most successful ways of documenting that messaging that you've seen work in the different type of organizations you've helped?
Keep it simple. Just keep it really simple. Just write a Word document, put an executive summary up front for what 90% of people want, which is copy blocks, elevator pitches, logo, taglines, the stuff that most marketers are going to want to just grab something for. And the reason you do that is if you don't provide clear messaging, they're going to make up their own. And then you've got this discombobulated messaging. And then one of the things I always recommend people do is something called the simplified description, where you just write it for an idiot. No jargon, no lingo. And if you can't do that, then you don't understand it well enough to write messaging. And it also uncovers so many disconnects. Like I've worked with companies where the teams have been together for over a decade. And through the process of simply documenting what the product or the solution is, you discover people have been talking past each other for years. They just thought they meant the same thing, but they didn't. So doing these things up front really helped to set everything else that you're doing up for success, because you uncover these disconnects early, and then everything is built on a foundation that everyone's aligned to. And then when you make a change, you go back to this thing and say, all right, looking at this thing we already wrote, would you make any changes? And if the answer is no, then you know that fundamentally there's not a lot of changes you need to make to your messaging. So that feature, I can't remember who said it before, sometimes product wants to talk about what product wants to talk about. Sometimes the market doesn't care about that new feature that you introduced, and it's important to document what is and what isn't important based on how the market perceives that.
I love that. Keep it simple. We have something here called Too Long Didn't Read.
I would like to circle back to the ICP, and Peter, I really appreciate you mentioned this. I remember that our alignment actually started with a very solid document on ICP and our total addressable market, and it gives us an understanding that we actually started speaking the same language with the sales, because we as marketers know so good who's our ideal customer profile, which means we actually started bringing better campaign idea, identifying the audience better. So it contributed directly into the results of our marketing campaigns, and our sales started to be more engaging because we're speaking the same languages, we're looking for the same, we know what should we do. So it actually contributed a lot. Like, no one go-to-market strategy is possible without understanding what is ICP, right? And when your marketing and sales team speak the same language and understand, like, we are targeting this market, so you can optimize the budget, you can bring the better leads, and you can actually build a very respectful environment between both of these teams. So yeah, it's a very important point, I believe.
Yeah, that ICP TAM way of thinking, I've seen a lot of brands doing advertisement, B2B advertisement, and on average, 35% of their ads go to companies that will never buy from them. And one of the good things about B2B marketing is that we can kind of predict which businesses are a good fit for our businesses. It's not like consumer marketing when eventually everyone could buy a product. So segmentation is way more complex. In B2B marketing, we are talking about a more reduced number of the universe is way smaller than in consumer marketing. And we can put that effort in building that ICP, in building a TAM for each specific product. And I'm sure that the results are way more strategic and way better at the end, as you mentioned, Mary.
So another area, just kind of combining the first question you asked us and the second question about where you have these breaks between sales and marketing and how we can help to keep people aligned, is about product market. It's not something I personally do, but I think Sonia, you had talked about this, and it's definitely one of those things that comes before ICP. So I'd ask you, in your experience, like what have you seen trying to inform everything that comes downstream from that?
Yeah. So when I joined Segment, I was a early PMM, and I scaled out the entire product marketing function, especially around solutions specifically. And at that time, there was products were just going to market without any process in place. We were experiencing fire drills as a company. And so we realized, as a product marketing organization, when we developed our charter, that we need to be involved early on, like maybe not at the alpha stage of creating, the concept, but early on we worked with engineering, we worked with product, we were in the loop, we had to really understand the market overall. We had an ICP that we recently, like at the time we had decided, hey, we're targeting data engineers, VP of engineering as our primary buyer. Now, knowing that, understanding the market, having the close relationship that we did with sales, as well as professional services, customer success, we were really at the forefront of being able to showcase that, hey, product marketing, we are strategic stakeholders driving the entire go-to-market process, and we want to be involved early on. And so that meant that, hey, when we have a specific, whether it's a feature or something much larger as part of our platform narrative, that is the insight that product marketing would then be able to work with product management on. And we discuss that, we work together, we figure out, like, hey, does this actually map to our campaign themes, work with our integrated marketing leaders, our demand gen leaders? How do we map this towards, is this a big moment? Is this more around a partner strategy approach? And so it's weighing all of that and working together on taking products to market.
And were you able to get into that phase in between ideation and actual coding?
So I was involved early on, but then we realized, as there are so many things that you have to prioritize establishing the product marketing function, we realized we needed to prioritize other things first. For example, even having a pitch deck, like what is our platform narrative? That was our primary, North Star at that point in time. But we helped shape that, I would say.
I love what Sonia is saying here too, because I think what I'm hearing across all of this is product marketing is this thread across the whole organization. And I know I touched on that earlier, but even when it comes to the research, Joaquin and Peter, that based on this question that you asked, I think we can't treat the research like a one-time project. I think true product market fit needs to be co-owned by everyone. So product, sales, customer success, product marketing. And so here at Checkr, I think we treat research like this shared ritual. For example, PMM will own win-loss calls with our sales. Products will own joining these persona validation document, and we'll have a whole session that we are speaking to how they're building the product. And then we'll pull in sales leaders to co-review our messaging drafts, not after the fact that we build them, but in actually developing them. So V1 draft, V2. So really this helps just prevent a launch or moving into an ICP, it feeling like a guessing game amongst different people, because we're all defining that same customer together. I think this is how, going back to the topic of the overall, this is how you align teams. This is how you bring people together. And I think as a result, this is where you get true value and a message that sticks in the market.
Jeff, I love what you said there, because one of the things I tell customers all the time is that one of product marketing's primary functions is to scale the value that exists in your company already. Mm-hmm. All these areas you're talking about, there's knowledge in all these places, and it's the job of product marketing to bring it up and scale it everywhere so that that's not just living in silos.
100%.
Yeah, and we need to be aware that it's a source of competitive advantage at the end. Some companies can find competitive advantage on a patent, and others can do it just by having those rituals that make your company competitive. Well, this has been a great conversation. We've talked from where alignment breaks, how to fix it, the role of product marketing plays in holding things together. Thank you so much for your collaboration. I hope you enjoyed the experience. And for our audience, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you like this, please share it with your colleagues. And until next time, thank you so much.